Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. Today's episode is part 2 of our special series on how to ask for a raise or a promotion. In the last episode, we covered how to have the right mindset and preparation to advocate for your own worth. Today, I'm joined by my dear friend, Meggie Palmer. Meggie has made it her mission to close the gender pay gap and help people negotiate for what they're worth. Meggie is the founder of PepTalkHer, a platform that helps people track their wins, own their value, and show up powerfully in the moments that matter. Today, we're going to dive deep into tactical tips on what to say in the room and the real talk behind negotiation, especially what to do when you don't get the answer you were hoping for. This episode is your playbook for negotiating with Gravitas. Whether you're preparing for a big ask or just need a reminder that you're not alone, this conversation is for you. Let's listen in. Meggie, welcome to In Confidence.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here in your gorgeous office, in your studio. This is special.
And you know what? We have been friends because our dear friend Tom McGrath texted us both and said, you two need to be friends, and I'm booking you two together in Nashville. And did we have a girl date?
We did at Husk, which, by the way, if anyone is going to Nashville, check it out. That was so good.
It was so fun.
I think before I took you there, I had been there with my mom after another speaking gig, and we'd seen Nicole Kidman in there. So we're in good company, you know? And the food was good.
The food, more of the company, the walk, the weird walk we took. Parts of it were dangerous, but we were together.
Yeah, it's true, like a construction site. That's right.
Can you tell our listeners who you are and how you make a difference in the world?
Yeah, so my name is Meggie Palmer. I migrated to the United States 8 years ago. I spent 15 years as a foreign correspondent. And then long story short, Lisa, I got screwed over on pay. The men in the newsroom were earning more than me. I thought it was a mistake. And so I was raised, if you see something, you say something, and I did. It didn't go well. And so now my mission is about closing the gender pay gap and supporting other folks to get paid what they're worth and what they deserve.
I love that. And you have an app called PepTalkHer. Is that right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have an app. It's free. It's part of our impact work. You can download it on all of the app stores. And I always say to people, it's kind of like a Fitbit, except instead of tracking your steps or your workouts, it tracks your wins at work. Or for women who use a period tracker, it's kind of like a period tracker. But instead of tracking your cycle, it tracks all of the successes that you're having in the workplace.
And why did you create this?
So it's really interesting. So when I was trying to figure out, when I was still working as a journalist and a correspondent, I started doing an accelerator program after hours. And they're like, you got to start with the problem. And I was like, well, the problem is the gender pay gap. How do you solve that? And I thought that you could use technology to try and move the dial. And I spoke to a lot of psychologists to try and understand the behavior and the root causes of the pay gap. And one of the things that they taught me in my research was the power of the nudge theory. Are you familiar with this?
No, tell me.
Okay, yeah. So they were basically like, in an ideal world, I would just give you a pill or give you a piece of advice and you'd be changed and that's it. Everything's sorted, you can negotiate, perfect, everything's done. But that's not how human behavior works. So what we know is that like if I'm here in terms of confidence on negotiation and I want to get to here, I don't just like make one big jump. I go like link incremental. So the nudge theory is like if you can shift your brain 1%, 0.5%, 1%, itty bitty shifts over time, you turn the big ship eventually, right? But it does take time. And so the app was kind of predicated on the idea of like, instead of like a lot of people who just prepare for their performance review the night before, the idea was if you could recall every week, once a week, one cool thing that you did at work and you could input it, that's sending a message to the synapses in your brain of like, hey, I did something cool. Hey, I did something of value. Hey, I contributed this week. And so then, at the end of the year, you've got, 40, 50 moments where you've shifted and you've kind of flexed that muscle in the right direction to kind of get that ultimate change that I was looking for folks.
So I know I forwarded it to you, but I've been recommending your app in our newsletter.
Oh yeah, I love your newsletter.
And I always say, you know what, we only celebrate the most valuable player, but we need to celebrate more often the most improved player.
Yeah. That's a great way of framing it.
And part of the thing I love is everyone has a gratitude practice, like I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for that, but it makes us feel almost receptive and it's like a blessing. It's so passive. I had no agency in creating that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've been recommending your app because I've been saying to people, if you document how you've gotten stronger, or what you've done to move the needle forward, you start to reward the growth.
Totally.
And I love that that was the thing. Because originally when I heard about the app, I was like, oh, you're just preparing for the professional review. I love that there is a mindset shift that you're creating subconsciously.
Yeah, you're right. And it is kind of like a Trojan horse, because the goal for me is like, I really want women to get wealthy, because I think that really cool things happen in the world. The data tells us the same thing, but like that's the outcome that I want. But if you said to someone, it's a mindset app, a lot of career folks are like, I don't have time for that rubbish, but if you're like, hey, this is like data, this is meat on the bone that you can use in those hardcore conversations when you're interviewing, when you're looking for a promotion, whatever, they're like, oh, I could get involved with that. I could be on board with that. But then, it's the mindset piece, the psychology that a bunch of behavioral psychologists, including an amazing one based here in New York, Brylee, who helped me with that kind of back end psychology piece. So, I mean, we're trying to use the tech for good, obviously, but it's interesting because when you think about that mindset piece, obviously there's a lot of apps and tech platforms out there that maybe are also harnessing similar things, perhaps not for as good outcomes, but yeah.
Well, and one of the things we've done the same, we have our myconfidencelanguage.com quiz.
Yes.
And people love quizzes.
Yeah.
Like, people, who doesn't love a quiz?
Yeah.
And a lot of people take it right before they're going to the review, because it just reminds them of all their talents and gives them the vocabulary to advocate for themselves.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm a big fan of PepTalkHer, and that's part of a greater constellation of work that you do.
Right.
You do consulting, you do coaching, speaking.
Right.
You brought your incredible career PepTalkHer.
The career cards.
What are these?
Yeah. So these are, they're called the Career Pep Talks. They're cards that folks can use in the workplace. So we do a lot. We have about 70,000 professional folks in our community, right, around the world, mainly in North America and Australia, where I'm originally from. But so we help people get, negotiate pay raises. We have an executive coaching practice for folks. And we do a lot of work in-house with employers of choice. So big companies like Salesforce, Zendesk, PwC, Microsoft, whatever. So we go in, we run workshops and big high potential leadership programs for them. And as part of that, we kind of wanted some props to use, because, like professional development, from big corporates can kind of suck. It's a bit like, it can be the worst. If you have a bad facilitator, or if it's like someone who just like is a little out of touch. So we've tried to really reinvent like what that experience is like. It's something, we're trying to make it something that people actually want to show up to, that's like, engaging and that's not tedious and makes you fall asleep. And so this is kind of part of that. So there's different hacks. So it's basically to spark conversations around career, trying to get folks of different generations in the workforce to share, like, the best advice that they had, what's the best hack that they have from a time-saving perspective at work, what was their first salary, just trying to like open up the conversation about money and career, that it's kind of a bit taboo, right? Sometimes, I mean, you and I talk openly about money because we're friends, but a lot of folks don't. So we're trying to, flip the switch on that.
Okay, so if you are watching this on video, these cards are incredibly cool. And if you're listening to this, I'm just going to pick a random question. Okay. It wasn't random because I was looking. and I'm going to tell a story about why organized. I picked this.
Okay, great.
Because it's very you. Here's one example.
Okay.
When was the last time you gave kudos to a work colleague? And who will you message today to tell them you value them? So how would you answer that question?
Yeah, so this question, when we were designing this, let me tell you the etymology behind this question and kind of where it came from. So this question is to try and I'm trying to change behavior. Like ultimately, I just kind of feel like my purpose in this world is to shift behavior. And I think that so often we feel like our careers happen to us and that stuff in the workplace happens to us and we have no control. And I want to kind of help people like reframe that actually you do have control. And so sometimes you might feel like you're spiraling at work, and also you have the control to text a colleague, right? To text a mentor, to text your first boss and say, hey, this is 20 years ago, but PS, you really, helped me with my very first job. So that's kind of where the idea for that particular question came from. The person that I paid kudos to was someone on my team yesterday, actually, who resigned because she's moving countries. I'm very happy for her. But I gave her kudos, and I was just like, the way she handled the whole situation was like, she was hoping to stay on with us part-time. She can't because of this new contract, because of where she's moving, etc. But she was just so transparent about it. It made it such a pleasure for her, I hope, and for me on both sides. And we're going to stay friends, and I will never stop shouting from the rooftops about how amazing she is. But she could have approached it so differently, and she didn't. And I'm so grateful to her for that.
I love that. And who are you going to message today?
I have a boss who I worked with when I was working in a newsroom in Australia. I actually shout out to her all the time in podcasts because she taught me how to negotiate my first salary. So let's just shout out to her now, Kathy Schnitzling, my first boss.
Here you go, Kathy.
She was great, but she gets a lot of shout outs. So I think I should shout out to someone else. Who else could I shout out to? Maybe I'm going to shout out, one thing, Lisa, I've been meaning to do is block time in my calendar every single week to intentionally give a specific kudos to everyone in my team.
Oh, I love that.
I think like we do it in the team meetings and stuff, but I actually need to be a better leader and I actually need to give specific positive feedback every single week at the same time every week. So I'm going to commit to doing that for my team.
I love that. Well,
forward.
I'm going to do
What's
yesterday. So, it's not a work colleague, but it's a client I work with.
Great.
And we're building this apparel business for them.
Okay.
And she has just come so far in terms of grasping all the tools, the techniques, the process, because manufacturing is not easy.
No.
And yesterday I said to her, this is hard, Victoria, this is hard. And I am so happy that you're humble, you're hungry, you want to get this work done in the right way. And she then said, I'm so glad we have you because I had no idea the hoops you jumped through to make products in the world.
I love that.
And we do, I think, do a good job of just saying, I've seen how much this has gotten better and whatnot. Who am I going to message today? Not a work colleague as well, but I think it's a good practice. I'm going to message my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because we got a puppy, as you know, because you were the first person I texted.
So cute. Those videos kill me.
The last 10 weeks have rocked my world.
Oh, really?
It's just been hard. I mean, you have a little boy, Hugo.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I'm ready for parenting a real child.
The dogs are really hard though.
It is a toddler that cannot advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
And he's just been so flexible. He's like, don't worry, I'll work from home today to take the dog. And I think I just need to thank him for being part of the ecosystem that allows me to do my work and do it well.
It's a good reminder, and I do think that I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Gottman Institute.
Yes.
Do you know them?
The Four Horsemen.
Yeah, the Four Horsemen. If anyone's been in relationship therapy, you may or may not be like
Contempt.
I have.
No contempt.
Yes, exactly. The stonewalling. You may or may not be familiar with them. But I think that's true because also, we often neglect the family, those who love us, our partners, our roommates, whatever, our sisters, our best friends, because we can be honest and we can show up as our full amazing and sometimes awful selves. And I think it's a good reminder. I'm going to text Ryan as well because he also holds space for the highs and lows that is being in a relationship with an entrepreneur. There's good days and bad days, right? More good than bad, but still.
More good than bad. And I will tell you why I chose that card. I have two mini Meggie stories to tell. We did this event together in Nashville.
Yeah.
And one of the highest impact audience exercises you did is you said everyone pull out their phones. Like you gave permission for people to be on their phones during your talk, which is just that is totally being secure in front of others. And then you said everyone text someone now that you value them.
Right.
And it was just such a crowd pleaser that you made them do it in the moment. And then the second Meggie story I will tell you is I would say every 10 days I get a text from you that says wellness check. And it's 2 words. And it just makes me so happy.
Oh, I'm
because
glad.
Number one, it means you're thinking about me, which who doesn't love to be thought about?
Yeah.
And secondly, it's so simple. It's wellness check.
Yeah.
And it's a shorthand for how are you doing? Do you need me? Do you need anything? Do you want to come hang out? Do you need a glass of wine? Come sit in our backyard.
Chocolate, all of the chocolate.
But it's an open invitation to be like, it actually really sucks right now, Meggie. And you're like, what's going on?
And I think, it's funny. Simone Heng, who's a good friend of mine, she's an amazing speaker. She talks a lot about the power of human connection. And in this modern world where we are all connected to everyone in the entire world, people are lonelier than ever, which is kind of crazy. And I definitely feel lonely at times too as an entrepreneur, even though I have the most amazing friends and family and I'm super supported. Sometimes I feel really lonely, which is kind of like a bit of a conundrum in and of itself. But then again, I'm like, okay, I can spiral into this and I can be like, woe is me, I feel lonely, whatever. Or I can actually take matters into my own hands and be like, okay, what could I actually do to take control back of this scenario? And so for me, I'm like a very I grew up on a farm, Lisa. So I'm just like, let's get stuff done. Let's be practical about this. So what's tangible? And what I love about I often also say wellness check, or sometimes I text my friend welfare check. And I texted my friend that recently, and sometimes it's lost in translation with the Aussie slang. I think she thought that maybe I thought that she was unsafe at home, which blessedly she's not. But I was like, no, I was just checking in. Anyway, but to your point about the phone a friend exercise, when I'm speaking or running workshops for clients, I'll often do that. I'll just be like, hey, text your roommate, your bestie, your work BFF, your auntie, who cares, someone who loves you, and just like ask them. And by the way, your listeners can do the same. Like, if you're driving, don't do this. But if it's safe to do so, like text someone.
I love that.
Be like, I'm listening to Lisa Sun's In Confidence podcast, the founder of Gravitas, and she's got this guest with the hectic Crocodile Dundee Aussie accent. Even though she's lived in America for 8 years, she still has a thick accent. And just text someone who you know love, trusts, and respects you, and just say, hey, what would you say is my best quality?
I love that.
And that's the question, because, you know, in school we get report cards. When we're young, people give us affirmation. As we become older adults, like sometimes people forget that like we also are craving sometimes that positive affirmation as well. And like permission for everyone listening or watching to like go ahead, and you can blame me, you can blame Lisa for that, because I think actually people kind of love to give you kudos if you give them a chance.
No,
right?
I will tell you when you're having a good hair day.
Yeah,
when I see
you're
a post on
very good at
Instagram, I'll
that.
be like, your hair looks amazing.
Well, and you really role model this, and we have a mutual friend, Lindsay Shookus, who also coincidentally is with our same speaking agent. She worked in media for a long time, and she's an amazing speaker and coach now too. But, you know, I would say Lindsay, one of her best friends, Kristen Merrick, and you, and actually my other friend, Jess Ekstrom. I don't know if you know Jess. I think the four of you and some other folks in Australia really, to me, role model, like, actually walking the talk of lifting people up. Because I think it's very easy, right, to read the books of like, go women, empower other women, be supportive. But sometimes it's a bit empty.
Yeah.
And I've really learned a lot, like truly, not just saying this, from you all, Karen Khan, who founded I Fund Women as well. People who just like, there's no upside for them, and they will just go out of their way to help you, support you, make an introduction, make a comment, invite you to an event. Like people don't have to do that, and they do. It's so kind, but it really like, it can change the trajectory of someone's life. I really believe that. And so I try and role model myself on you all. My other friend Nabia does this very well. I try and like, I'm like, how can I be more like them? Like really live that ethos, you know, in everything that we do.
Well, vice versa. And you're really good about putting your money where your mouth is. Like, I know you post on Instagram, like, I met this cool brand and I just bought a pack of gummies. Like, I loved that one. They're so yummy, by the way, that candy.
candy.
So good.
10 out of 10.
I would say you're my role model for doing it, because it's really hard to walk the talk sometimes.
Sometimes, because we get in out, and also like, there's like, people want us to be dog eat dog, and like there are people that want to bring you down, right? And so it's kind of, it's a practice. I find that it's like a consistent practice. Like academically, I know that's how I want to show up, and I know that's how I want to behave. But I sometimes feel like I can find myself falling or about to fall off the wagon if I don't consistently practice and look to other people who are doing better than I am at that. And reminding myself of like, that's what I want to emulate. That's what I want to emulate.
And we're really good about sharing. We don't compete with each other.
Yeah, you're amazing.
We don't.
At that too,
yeah. We had Peter Hurley, who's also with our speakers
great.
on.
Yeah.
And Peter said,
amazing photographer.
Peter said, amateurs compete, professionals create.
Huh.
And I loved that line.
That's really cool, yeah.
Because I think we're all creating and we're helping each other and we're collaborating. We're not competing with each other, which I think is very rare in the worlds that we run in.
Well, it's interesting too, isn't it? Because you think about Peter, he's an amazing creative. I think about another friend of mine, I don't think you've met her, Samantha Wills. She had an amazing jewelry brand in Australia. She's had this amazing book, all these amazing things. But yeah, she's a true creative. And I feel like I observe that true creatives who it's in their spirit and their DNA to create in the world, they want you to be prolific. They want you to be successful because they know that actually by you role modeling that, you're giving other folks permission to live their creative life as well. Because it's not an easy life, the creative life, is it?
No.
Probably, maybe in some ways would have been quote unquote easier for you to stay at McKinsey, but you chose the road less traveled because it's potentially more creatively fulfilling. I don't know, I'll let you answer.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
I love that you're a journalist. You're like, let me turn this around on you. Absolutely. I would say if I was motivated purely by financial outcomes, I would have just stayed in corporate America. Yeah. You don't choose the lives that we've chosen unless you really love it and you feel like it's your life's work.
But it is also, well, I don't know about for you, I have had to surround myself with community that I either know or that I follow online so that I can feel buoyed.
Yes.
You know, whether virtually, whether metaphorically, just to be like, oh, keep going.
Yeah.
You know, like I really think that is a great motivator for the days that you do feel like spiraling.
Well, let's get into it because I really want to get into how people can ask for a raise or a promotion, and you're the expert.
Let's do it.
Let's start off with, why do people struggle with this so much?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to tell you an unfun fact and then we can try and unpack that. So the gender pay gap is a thing. There are facts that prove that. You can strip out data points. Like you can strip out the fact that women are more likely to have caring responsibilities for children or older relatives. You can strip that out. There's still a gap. You can strip out the fact that from a young age, girls are socialized to go into quote unquote lower paying jobs like nursing, for example, childcare work, versus men who are maybe socialized to become a builder or go into computer science. So you can strip that out of the data and there's still a gap, right? So you can account for these things that sometimes people use as an excuse. And, you know, researchers, like the final factor that they hypothesize is causing the pay gap is unconscious bias and conscious and unconscious discrimination. And so what's really interesting / horrendous is in 3 separate countries, there have been 3 different research studies that have shown that little girls get less allowance than little boys. And so what we see is that gender pay gap, it actually starts at like 7 or 8 years old, right? And like parents are not bad people. Parents are not inherently discriminatory, right? But, you know, when I think about my childhood growing up on a farm, if you were out in the paddock, you know, fixing a fence or chopping firewood, that was tough work. Right? If you were helping mum make spaghetti bolognese, or if I was, you know, folding the laundry, that was work, but it wasn't hard work.
Okay.
And so what we see is there's this, from a really young age, there's signals that like that's worth $5 and that's worth $6. Or that's worth $6 and that's worth $8.50, whatever the case may be. So it's really interesting, right? That like, so from really young age, we get these signals in the press, you know, at school, some things that teachers say as, you know, just like offhanded comments can stick with us. We think that, you know, you have to be a Wall Street banker to be able to negotiate. All of us have a core memory about negotiation. Do you remember your first time ever negotiating when you were like young? Remember?
I'm sure it was because I was negotiating to be able to buy something.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I remember my parents say, I was like, everyone has LA Gear sneakers. And my mom would say, but you don't want to be like everyone else.
Oh, interesting.
And it happened to be Price Club, now known as Costco, had LA Gear. They were not the colorway I wanted.
Okay.
But I basically said, even though it's not the colorway I want, it's 50% off what it would have been at retail.
So you got them?
I got them. They were definitely not like everyone else's. Let's be clear. They were pink. They had weird rhinestones on them.
Pink's cool.
But I did get LA Gear sneakers.
Well, we need to cut a photo of you in your prime.
I wore them proudly in middle school. I was just so excited. Almost all of my designer goods were from the Outlet or Price Club. I remember my Esprit bag. Again, my mother's response was like, you don't want to be like everyone else. I'm like, I'm definitely not like everyone else. I have the off-run goods.
But what an interesting message as a part of your thought track from a young age. You don't want to be like everyone else.
Yeah, it's true, but I did ultimately get them. They weren't exactly the ones I wanted, so we are going to talk about what happens when you don't get exactly what you want.
Yeah.
But I did achieve my outcome.
You got the goal. And I think, you know, when I speak to a lot of people, some people, their first time is, you know, buying something at a store or like that. For me, it was like fighting with my dad to negotiate to be able to go to parties because I was always grounded. So I was like trying to like get the middle ground. But so I kind of had this like, I thought that negotiation was combative. I thought it was aggressive and I thought it was a fight. And so I took that mindset and attitude, frankly, into negotiating, even in the professional world when I started, because I just thought that's what you did. I didn't realize that actually when you look at the definition, negotiation is a conversation. It's just a conversation. Pretty sure everyone listening and watching can do that. And the only different thing is that there's a goal of an agreement. So it's a conversation with an agreement as the goal. We're trying to find some sort of a consensus. So a lot of us have core memories that have a negative association. A lot of us think that we're not good enough. We don't have an MBA. A lot of us think the employer has all the power. Could never, like, I'm just lucky to be here. We're just happy to be here. We don't want to, push the envelope too far. So that's what I hear from a lot of people in our community.
That makes sense because I think inherently we are conflict avoidant.
Yeah, right. People pleasers. Yeah.
We see negotiation as combative versus, hey, we're on the same side. If I get compensated properly, I will be even more motivated to do great work, right? I think it's very much, it's two sides of the table, we're on opposite sides, or it's, I want to not rock the boat. I'm conflict avoidant.
Oh, and I can't tell you, Lisa, how many times like my one-on-one executive coaching clients for me or my team or even in our group programs, the number, I would say like probably half of people would be happy to be paid less if it means they don't have to have a challenging conversation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, running a business like you and I do, like challenging conversations, you don't get to avoid them, but it's interesting, right? A lot of people are like, no, I'd actually, like I have people that were underpaid 30, 40, 50 grand. Like I don't care. I don't want to have that conversation with my boss. So interesting, right?
So interesting. And you know, I've been in a lot of therapy. And my best friend Jane Park said, I love it when we fight.
Oh, really?
Here is an example. During the pandemic, we made face masks together. Okay. And we both remember this one afternoon where we had a massive fight.
Really?
And the next day, I was so upset about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I let down my friend Jane. And she called me and she said, that was the best conversation we've ever had as friends. Wow. And we are stronger because of it.
Wow.
And we got it all out there.
Yeah, interesting.
And now we know where each other stands. And I'm currently in the healthiest relationship. I don't want to jinx it. I'm in the healthiest romantic relationship of my life. Amazing. And it's because we fight. It's because we talk about all those things.
Yeah, get it out in the open.
And for me, that's a huge mindset shift, right? Which if we can talk about it, if we can hash out, the outcome will always be better.
Totally. And the thing is, like, if you think about this from an employer-employee relationship, so like I have a team, for example, if someone wants me to pay them more money, frankly, it is often cheaper for me to pay them more money than it is for me to go and recruit someone else.
Absolutely.
And you know, we know that recruiting fees run anything from sort of 20 to 40%. So let's say you earn $100,000, it's probably going to cost your company 20 to 25K-ish to replace you. Yep. Say nothing of the fact that it's annoying and it's time consuming. Your boss has got to schedule interviews, all that institutional knowledge goes out the door. It's just annoying. You've got to explain to the clients, here's your new account manager, whatever. Like, so that's 25K that it's costing the company anyway. Like, what if they had have just given you a 15 grand raise, right? Or even better, a 25 grand raise. Like, so actually remembering that as an individual, you have power. And if you were bad at your job, you would be fired or you would be on a performance plan, right? Like, if you have a job, things are going relatively well, that I'm going to assume you're probably somewhere between a 6 and a 10 out of 10. Which is probably what they're expecting, right? And so therefore, you're contributing in some way. Probably, I mean, some people do work for charities, but even charities have standards, right? In terms of what they're expecting from their team. So like you are contributing. And if you walk out the door, that is annoying for them. So just remembering that there is that value. And so that's what I try and help folks do in our communities, like reframe the, like, I know you don't want to have a conversation with your boss, but it doesn't have to be combative. It can just be like, hey, listen, I'm so excited to talk to you because this year I have, you know, increased the ROI of our email newsletter by 17%. I've brought in 3 new clients and I organized the intern program. And given that, I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with you about what my compensation could look like for 2026.
Yeah.
Like, there's no demanding, there's no like fists on the table type vibe. I mean, you can if you want, but like it doesn't have to be like that. And so then your boss can just meet you and say, well, listen, budgets are tight, it's not going to happen. They can say no, that's reasonable as well, but you are allowed to ask. And then, you know, you can make a considered decision after the fact. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I like the way you framed it up in business terms too, which is
exactly
the friction caused by you leaving.
Totally.
Assuming your performance is there.
Yep.
Is avoiding that friction is more valuable to your organization.
Yeah.
Then, you know, that is an interesting way to reframe it.
Well, it comes, I mean, ultimately what we're talking about is leverage, right? And there's ways and there's ways. So, you know, and sometimes you can do this. Sometimes you can walk in and say, I've been offered 100 grand more, meet it, or I'm walking out the door. Sometimes that is the conversation. Very rarely. There's often a much better way to handle it. But like, if you can sort of have the conversation unsolicited, I was approached, I'm very happy here, I appreciate your mentorship, I don't want to leave, but I wanted to be honest with you.
Yeah.
This is what is on the table. My preference is to stay here, but like, can we just have a really open conversation about this? And let's see what they say.
Okay, so let's walk through the stages
Yeah.
of a negotiation or a discussion and
Yeah.
whatnot. So what
Yeah.
happens before you have that conversation?
Yeah.
What happens during that negotiation? And
Yeah.
then what happens after? Can you maybe help us lay out,
Yeah,
if you
like
were in
a
the situation,
process.
what would be the things you would think about?
Yeah, so there's three things that I want to talk about. So let's start with the fact that I am not a mystic. I am not, I can't see the future. However, I can categorically tell you the next business negotiation that you're going to have, I already know what the answer is. I already know the outcome. I already know what the outcome is because you know it as well. Any negotiation, there's only ever three options.
Okay.
That's it. They're either going to say yes, they're going to say no, or they're going to say maybe.
Okay.
And that's it. Now, we don't know exactly what the yes will look like. We don't know exactly what the maybe will look like, but we can role play that. We can brainstorm ahead of time. Okay. Yeah, like we can. So what I want people to do is like get out your A4 paper or your Google Doc, whatever, and like 3 columns. Yes, no, maybe. This is the possibility. Let's like do a bit of role play, whatever. This is the possibility if they say no. If they say maybe, that's kind of where the juicy part for me is, because it's like, well, they didn't say yes, they didn't say no. It is up to you to have done the mental gymnastics to be able to steer that conversation closer to the outcome that you're looking for.
I love this. So I do something that's called worst case, best case, most likely case.
Love it.
I do it about everything.
Do you? It's good for your mental health,
because I just want the inner critic to tell me the worst case scenario. This is the worst thing that could happen.
Because then it doesn't get any worse than that.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, here's the best case. Yeah. And then I'll say to myself, most likely. And for some reason, that gives me a degree of control.
Yeah.
So I love this. I've never thought about that as the first stage.
Taking the control back. And that's the thing. There's so much uncertainty. And we don't know exactly what the numbers and the dollars and cents will look like. But we know that they'll either say yes, no, or maybe.
So I want a 20% increase in my raise, and I want a title change, and I want a promotion.
Right.
So I'll say, worst case, they say no. And I'm going to have to go job hunting, or just suck it up and be unhappy and resentful.
Or ask them about non-monetary benefits.
Okay.
That they could say yes to, which we'll get to. We can get to that too.
Okay, great. I'm excited to hear that. Best case is they say yes. Everything is great. Awesome. Let's do it. Let's paper that. Maybe we're going to have to think about it, look at the budget, right? And like think through, and they'll come back to you with a counter offer.
Yeah, to your point, most likely they're probably going to come in somewhere between sort of in the current climate, maybe somewhere between 3 and 12%. Right?
And do you need to have a number in mind?
Yeah. So similar to your best, worst, most likely, I like to talk about the wish, want, walk, the WWW. So I'm just going to use 100,000 because that's easy round numbers, right? So you want to know, what is your wish figure, like your OMG, I cannot believe this is the amount of money that I'm going to get paid. So I want you to think now, so everyone can close their eyes. Think about what your salary is, and then think about what that wish number is. Like just throw out a wild number. Whatever it is, I want you to add tax, because I'm guaranteeing that folks listening and watching are not asking for enough. So you want that to be, I actually feel awkward saying it out loud. So that's your wish number. So then we go all the way to the other end of the spectrum to your walk number. Now, this is the number where you're like, this is a joke and actually offensive. Like, no, this is not acceptable. Now, you might still have to take the job because health insurance, because mortgage, because whatever, but you have one foot out the door, right? So you're either looking for something else, you're actively talking to recruiters, whatever the case may be. So your walk figure is you might say no, or you might just not going to be staying there very long, right? That's the walk, and you're like, I cannot work for that amount. And then your want number is not 50% in the middle of those numbers, but it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
Where you're like, you know what, this is fair. I actually am pretty happy to give 90 to 100% for this amount of money, maybe 110% on a good day. Like, I'm happy to jump out of bed. This feels reasonable. I don't feel like I'm taking advantage. I don't feel like they're taking advantage of me. Like, this is a good amount of money where I feel taken care of. So if you're very clear on those numbers, to your point about being able to control what you can control, it's helpful, because let's say if my wish number is 120, my want is 100, and my walk is 80 grand. If I walk into this conversation and they say, so we were thinking it'd sit around 150, straight away your brain can go, zoop, I gotta, allocate all these numbers and slide in the other direction, right? And maybe you're talking about 300, 400, 500,000. Like, we have some clients that are earning millions of dollars, right? So whatever that quantum is for you, if they come in above your wish number, you know that you were thinking too small. So straight away you can slide up. And again, Lisa, when we look at the gender pay gap data, what we know is that the gender pay gap sucks, and it sits somewhere between 12 and 20%, depending on how we crunch the data. That number and those figures are way worse for women of color, significantly worse. So when you are researching and preparing for this wish, want, walk, I want you to do your Googling, I want you to talk to friends, but I want you to talk to some white dudes. Because statistically, the data tells us that they probably have a higher expectation of their wish, want, walk. And so if you talk to them, that can help you calibrate more in that direction as well.
No, I'm a big fan of doing research.
Yeah, totally.
And for me as an employer, I often say, okay, for this role with your level of experience, like here's a number that we feel good about, but we could up it, based on performance, based upon annual results, all of those things. So I love that homework of doing that.
And listen, if you want to earn an extra $50 a year, go with my blessing, y'all will be fine. If you're listening to this, I know the sort of person that you are. But if you're I had a client today, she got an extra $35,000 in this climate. I've had a couple of clients, maybe about a dozen, that have got 6-figure pay increases. We've had 3 7-figure job offers in the community in the last 2 years. It does happen, right? But if you want $50, an extra $1,000, y'all will be fine. If you want an extra $50,000, $150,000 a year, you better believe you got to do the prep work. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. But the output and the upside is massive. So why not? And that's where it comes, the kind of the 3 steps that I like to take people through in terms of what does that journey look like is preparation, playing detective work, and then thinking about the long game.
And how do you think about non-monetary things like stock options, equity, professional development budget, things that you might want that you haven't put a dollar figure to yet?
Totally. Because, so the first thing that we're always optimizing for is cash. Okay. Cash is king, etc. Equity is nice, but it's a bit pie in the sky. It might never turn into anything. So when you think about the wish, want, walk, do it first for money. Okay. Right? So do it for money, because that's how also your retirement, 401k, et cetera, is attributed to based on that base salary. So then, of course, you want to consider bonus. You want to consider commission potentially if you're in a revenue generating role. You want to think about equity. Fine. Then you want to think about non-monetary benefits. I think about extra vacation days. I think about flexible working arrangements. I have a client in Silicon Valley whose company pays for her pet insurance.
Cool.
Pre-tax pet insurance. Love that for her. Of course, healthcare benefits.
Yeah, fertility treatments.
Fertility treatments. Exactly right. Working from home on a Wednesday because you have cello lessons. Leaving at 3 p.m. on a Thursday because you want to learn how to kayak. Whatever. Benefits for in the summer vacation if you want to look after your niece or your nephew, or if you have a little kid like I do, you want to be able to work from home for those 2 weeks. Whatever it is. Thinking outside the square. It's mental gymnastics for you. But you have to do that, because I hope and pray that everyone listening has an amazing boss who does some of this logistics for them. But chances are you're probably going to have a boss who's a 6 to an 8 out of 10. Yeah. They're fine. They're nice enough. They watch Netflix. They fight with their kids. They may or may not be getting divorced. They're kind of like a normal boss.
They probably want to raise 2.
They probably want to raise 2. Exactly. They've got their own issues. So you can't expect them to give you the perfect career and the perfect benefits on a platter. They're so busy. They've got 50 other emails they've got to get through, right? Okay. Their kids got softball practice, they got to get out the door. So if you put yourself in their shoes, if you make it easy, especially as we talked about the yes, no, maybe, if you've mapped it out, yes, I want this, no, I want this, maybe I want this. If they say maybe, you say, okay, I totally get that. Can we circle back in 3 months' time? And in the meantime, would you be open to me taking a full day summer Friday once a month? Or would it be okay if I change my contract so I can fly business class on flights longer than 5 hours, because then I can be, a contributing member of the team while I'm in the air 10 hours a week, whatever the case may be, right? You've got to kind of think of that for them so it's easy for them to say yes. Because the salary bucket, and you know this, you run a P&L, the salary bucket is here and one part of the profit and loss. The professional education, the coaching budget, joining a community like PepTalkHer, office wardrobe from Gravitas and other folks, that is a different line item.
No, and there's one, right? We do 100% health insurance and we do dental and vision. Yeah. Dental and vision, you forget, it's not a huge expense, but it is massively helpful to people.
Right.
Little things like that.
That's exactly right. Sometimes people will get car parking reimbursed. Yeah. And the boss is like, of course we'll reimburse you. You just never ask.
You never ask.
But if you ask the question, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I think what you're also asking people to do is their total life P&L.
Yeah, that's a great way of phrasing it. Yeah.
If I think about all the weird hidden costs, can I take a Lyft to work?
Yeah.
once
after 9 p.m. is it okay?
Because I got to
Whatever
drop
it
off
is.
my dog at daycare and whatnot. Can I
Yeah.
just do that twice a week? Because that's $50 back in my pocket.
Which is not nothing. That's like a couple of grand over the course of a year. You know what I mean? So like thinking about those things and doing the mental gymnastics before you walk in the room. Because in the room, like you're anxious, you're stressed, like you may be a little bit sweaty palms, super normal. I say to people like, take in a folder. Take in a dossier of stuff, have lines written out, like, you know, have your numbers written down. There's no shame in that. Like, especially in a Zoom world, you can like literally have it on a screen. But like take prompts in for yourself. That's okay. As a boss, I love it when people prepare.
Okay.
I'm here for it, you know?
All right. So I love that. Now, what do I do during the meeting? So I've scheduled the 15 minutes.
Yep.
How does that conversation go?
Yeah, so hopefully you've been tracking stuff on the PepTalkHer app.
Please, everyone, download that app.
Download the app. It's totally free, but I honestly don't care if you use it. I don't care if you use a notepad. I don't care if you use a Google Doc. I just want it to be consistent. And the good thing about the app is it gives you like a push notification. Whatever. Track your successes throughout the year because like pop quiz, what did you have for dinner 3 Tuesdays ago?
Have no idea.
Okay. What was your biggest win at work in February?
Oh, getting ready for our International Women's Day campaign. We got 25 women signed up. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire.
Okay,
right? You were in that campaign.
I was. I need to throw you a bigger curve. Okay, what about October 2024? What was your biggest win?
I have no idea.
Okay. So the point of this is not to make Lisa feel bad at all, but the point of this is to say that like
my mind palace is cluttered.
Well, there's so much going on. We've got Netflix plots to remember. Yes. We've got dogs' food to remember to order. Like we've got, you know, all of the things happening. So of course we don't remember. Like, I mean, I love that you remember February because you had that beautiful campaign. And check out the Gravitas website for. I'm actually going to buy your t-shirt. I was saying that to you before we started. I was like, I need that t-shirt. But I don't want you prepping the night before.
Right.
It's too late. It's like too late in the game, and that's why the app you can like upload photos and stuff. But anyway, like have those consistent wins so that you can take in the data.
Okay.
And you get to steer that conversation.
Okay.
They have an agenda, which is maybe the economy, budgets are low. You have an agenda. I am crushing. You are so lucky to have me.
Okay.
Right? So set your agenda. Send them the agenda ahead of time, if you like. I would like to discuss my wins for the year, some exciting ideas I have for the year ahead, and then my compensation. Like feel free to send that to the boss or to the EA, put it in the calendar invite so it's very clear. And then I would go in there and say like, I'm really excited to talk to you. You always like to give kudos to your boss, regardless of how frustrating they may be. And just say like, you know, here's the biggest contributions that I'm so proud of this year. Perhaps you want to print it out and hand it over to them. Perhaps you just want to run them through it. Perhaps you've got screenshots of feedback from clients, maybe photos of events that you've attended or organized, maybe some feedback from your executive coach about how much they've seen you progress, whatever the case may be. Put forward an argument and a negotiation as to why you've really like stepped up this year. Wherever you can quantify dollars and cents, percentages, year on year, how have you saved the company money? How have you made the company money? If you're not in revenue generating role, have you contributed to culture? Have you added value to clients? Whatever that is. And then just say, like, I'm really excited to hear from you about what you think my compensation could look like going forward.
So you don't put the number out. You ask them to put the number out.
So there's this concept called anchoring.
Okay.
In negotiation, which I'm sure you're familiar with, which is basically like he or she who throws out the first number anchors where the negotiation starts from. So the challenge with throwing out the first number is that if you go in too low, that's where the negotiation starts. So if I throw out 100K, we start from there. If I throw out 500K, we come back from there or go up from there, whatever that is, right? So it depends. It depends. If you want to leave and you could care less, go ahead. Throw out a bananas number.
Yeah.
Let's see what they have to say for themselves. If you want to stay, if you need to stay, if you're not sure, then I always recommend open-ended questions.
Got it.
Like I would love to understand from you, how do you feel about this year? Like what's your feedback for me? What are you thinking about compensation going forward and learning from what they have to say?
So is it okay to ask for feedback? Because what if their narrative is different than yours before you get to compensation?
So what I like is to try and nip this in the bud before we get to the performance review conversation.
Oh.
So I talk about this concept called the FYI-Only email. So this is an email that I like people to send every month. and one of my mentors at Salesforce helped me with this concept. And we've been teaching it for more than 10 years now. So basically every month, if you were my boss, I'd be like, hi, Lisa, I'm so excited for the summer weather. I'm going to be going to the beach. I hope you're going to stay cool somewhere too. Quick update on my end. This month, we've done a huge project with Dell in person and virtually. We've added 20 new members to the mastermind community. Sadly, Josephine's leaving, but we're going to have a virtual farewell party for her, and it's all on good terms, and we're so excited for her next step. Let me know if anything's coming up for you, and have a great weekend with the dog. Whatever. So basically, you're like, yo, connection, summer holidays, dog, we're friends. Like, let's bond at a deeper level than just work. And then I've done this, this, and this. Amazing. That's the subtext. If your boss has got a problem with any of that, then they can nip it in the bud there and go, Josephine, she's our star performer. Do not let her go. Like, code red, fix it. I want them to tell me that now, not in 6 months' time when it's the performance review, you know?
I love this. And this is one of my big themes for this season, which is feedback all along the way, leave nothing to mystery.
Ooh, you need to print that on a t-shirt. I love that.
To mystery.
Like a mug.
Wait, I'm not sure I want to put that on a t-shirt. On a mug.
A mug, yeah.
And one of the things I always tell people is people are bad at asking for, giving, and receiving feedback.
Yeah.
And if only we implemented a continuous feedback model, we wouldn't have to have surprises at the annual review.
I 100% agree. Okay. 100%. And some bosses are very good at those consistent metrics. We've actually only introduced in the last 6 months weekly team metrics. So when someone's going off piste, it's pretty obvious to the whole team pretty early, right? But for a long time, we didn't have those weekly metrics.
Okay.
It's pretty intense every week, but like at least we know where we're heading.
Yeah.
Right? So some bosses will give you the parameters. If they don't, you've got two options. You can complain about it and moan about that boss and they're the worst, or you can get on the front foot and like put those parameters in place.
Yes.
And say to them, hey, we actually fell down on sales numbers this year. I think it's because it was a long weekend. I'll keep you posted next week.
Got it.
Instead of emailing you monthly, I'm going to email you weekly just so you can see that we're going to catch up. Don't stress.
I love that.
Like you actually have the capacity to say, these are the metrics that I need so I stay on track. You haven't asked me for it, but I'm going to provide it to you anyway.
I love that. Okay.
Taking control back.
Taking control back.
Yes.
So in that conversation, and I like that you're saying like you don't want to really mix professional development conversations in with this negotiation.
In an ideal world, that feedback and that two-way street would have happened throughout the year. And I have sometimes my clients are like, yeah, but my boss cancels when I schedule the one-on-one, they cancel it. Okay, well, you can walk into their office or you can say, hey, Dean, do you mind just staying on after the team meeting for 5 minutes? Like there's ways that you can kind of insert yourself in.
So worst case scenario, what if your version of events is different than your boss's?
Yes. So we want to keep receipts along the way. Yeah. So I've been in this situation, perhaps you have too, where it can get combative and you do want to have a record for legal reasons or other reasons. It's not ideal. Hopefully not a lot of people in that situation, but taking verbatim notes during meetings, making sure you follow up with a paper trail after a meeting to say, hey, Caitlin, just following up per our conversation, ABC are your key priorities. That's what I'll spend the next 7 days on. Just making sure that you've got that record, having another party attend a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting if you feel like you need to have a third party as well, or asking for feedback and saying, that's so interesting, tell me more about that. Instead of being combative and saying, that's outrageous, you're a liar, you can just, Alex Carter, who's based here in New York, she's an amazing negotiation professor. She uses the phrase, tell me, a lot in her book called Ask for More. So tell me more about that, like open-ended questions. So you can listen to what they have to say and understand more of their thinking.
All right, so I'm in the meeting. I've brought in my homework.
Yes.
I've made my case.
Got your receipts, yes.
I've got my receipts. Let's do a choose your adventure, own adventure.
Ooh, I loved those books.
So one would be your boss goes, great, we're going to be giving you the standard 8% increase that we're giving across the board. And I'll do a little sweetener because you're a high performer. And it is not in your want and wish.
It's a little below the want.
It's a little below want. Okay. It's above my walk. Because I think that's usually how it goes, by the way.
Yeah, typically.
What do I do then?
Okay, so basically the steps that we're following is we're preparing, which is what we talked about. We're doing our columns with the yes, no, maybe. We're doing our wish, want, walk preparation. The second step is we're playing detective. So before the meetings even come about, you're sort of obviously, if your boss went through a divorce the day before, we're probably going to reschedule the meeting.
Okay.
If your company is on the front page of the Financial Times for all the wrong reasons, we're going to come up with an excuse to change the meeting. Okay, so we're playing detective externally. And then in the meeting, we're playing detective too. Like ultimately, tip of the iceberg, you're not dumb. You know how to do the tip of the iceberg. We want you to be doing detective work beneath the iceberg.
Okay.
So I want you to have the full picture. So like we're going to talk to other colleagues, we're going to build alliances in the organization and just like ask, hey, what's going on with raises this year? What are you hearing from the CFO? Like we're trying to get the full picture. What's happening to revenue? Being like really realistic about that. Because if you know revenue's down, maybe your wish, want, walk is slightly different from a year when revenue is crazy bananas high.
Okay.
So they come in and they're not quite at your wish number and they're not even quite at your want number. But it's clear that they value you. Mm-hmm. It's clear that they're like, you're a high performer. Mm-hmm. So we've heard the word high performer. Yeah. So then at that point, I would kind of use their language back and I would say, listen, I really appreciate the acknowledgement of my high performance. I'm so proud of that. And you've really given me kudos throughout the year. Thank you for your support in making this happen. I've got to be honest, I'm a little disappointed. It's not quite where I was hoping we could land. How much wiggle room do you have?
Okay. Not much. What if the person says, I don't have that much wiggle room? This is kind of like company policy for the year.
Okay. And say, totally get it. I know it's a weird economic time. Should we circle back in a week? Just because, to be honest, if this is the final offer, it would make it really hard for me to give 110% like I have for the last 2 years. That's what I want to keep doing. But honestly, like I am slightly motivated by money. And so this is an important conversation for me. Would you be open to exploring creative ways? Like, for example, what if the base was the 8% that you're offering? If you could go higher, that would be great. And what if you could increase my commission? So as and when the revenue comes in, is there some wiggle room there given my high performance, which you've kindly acknowledged? So that's where some of the mental gymnastics that you've done ahead of time is like, well, he or she may not be able to move here, but maybe they could move on the commission because then it's a variable.
Right.
So if you don't sell, it doesn't go up. Or do you know what I mean? Like just some of those things that you've got, those levers that you have at your disposal to be able to sort of navigate the conversation to an outcome that you're looking for. Or you might say, listen, I really appreciate that. Can I suggest we take 7 days each to go away and think about the best possible scenario we could come up with comp-wise? And maybe we just take a breather and circle back next week. I'll make a time with your assistant. I just really would need to think with this. If this is truly the only wiggle room we have, I'd need to kind of take a beat before I signed on the dotted
What
line.
I love about what you're saying is I definitely love this message. It's not a no.
It's not a no.
And part of the job now on my plate is to go be creative as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And to go think about what else I would ask for.
And it's about having that power. Now, if I am desperate for this health insurance and if I'm going to go into bankruptcy if I can't pay my mortgage next month, you might have to play it a little different. But if you know you've got recruiters knocking down your door and if you know you've got 6 months salary saved and you could care less, like you're not going to accept less than your want number, it gives you more leverage. You know what I mean? So you've got to figure out like your personal scenario also plays a role in like how hardball you play. Because the other option is to say, John, I'm going to be honest with you, or Joanne, I'm going to be honest with you. You're going to have to go a lot higher for me to stay here long term. Let's just put our cards on the table. So you can do that if you don't care and you're happy to walk. So you've got to kind of figure out where you stand.
I love that. Because I'm just going to say what I think some of our listeners might feel is,
right.
But as a woman, will I be seen as difficult?
Yeah. Right. And that is...
By the way, I don't believe that. I'm just saying that that's
course.
kind of my knee-jerk reaction if I'm like,
Well, a lot of people listening, and I believe this for a long time, believe that. Like, I am being difficult. How dare I ask for more?
Yeah.
You know, but again, if you understand, I've brought in $750,000 for this organization. The least they can do is pay me $220,000. Okay. If you know that, it's understanding what is the value that you bring. If you know that your CEO is going to be lost without you as their chief of staff, you can be demanding quite a lot because you know they don't have the time or the effort to find someone else.
So I love this, and that's why I asked the question, is because I don't think we're being difficult. It's business.
It is business, and business is a lot easier to have a frank conversation if you've got a plan B.
Yes, and I work with one partner where he says, it's just about money, Lisa. So just what do you need? Tell me what you need.
Right. What do you need to get this deal done?
Yeah. And the negotiation is 5%, 8%. I was like, okay, there's wiggle room. Great. Yeah. If I offer you 8% interest on this, are we done? Yes, we're done because I will make money on you. I'll make money on the situation.
And I had a previous boss too, and she's like, what's it going to take to get this deal done? Yes. What's it going to take to lock you in to take this role?
Because for me, I've always had, and I know this surprises people, I've always had a difficult relationship with money.
Yeah.
It's immigrant, corporate, all that things. And it's always uncomfortable when I have to ask for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And along the way, a mentor said, it's just money, Lisa. And they want to make it. And they're going to make a lot of money off of you.
Yeah.
So just make them an offer that's related to the money.
Yeah.
And don't apologize, don't overthink it. It's just money. If they say no, that's fine. They've lost out an opportunity to make money with you. That's fine.
Totally. And I think everyone is motivated by different things. So money is a part of what motivates me, but impact motivates me.
Yes.
Like, relationships motivate me. So it's also thinking, like, I have a lot of clients who are like, yeah, but Meggie, I live a good life. I pay my mortgage. I don't owe any debt on my car. I have no student loans. I go out to dinner once a week. Like, I don't need any more money. And what I would say to that is, and this is actually something that a mentor at Stanford taught me. She said to me, Meggie, when I go in to negotiate, I'm not negotiating on behalf of me. I'm negotiating for me, for my husband, for our 3 children, our 7 horses, our 2 dogs, and the next generation of female academics. And so then all of a sudden her mindset is not like, what do I need? It's like, the next generation of female academics, I have to. Yeah. I have to put my best foot forward because the next generation and the next generation are going to be mad at me if I don't. And I'm going to be kind of unconsciously screwing them over if I don't take my full value. Do you have to buy a Ferrari? No. If you want to give it to your favorite charity, if you want to buy your mum a car, if you want to, make a scholarship of money, if you don't need the money, do whatever you want with the money. But for the love of God, take the money because it actually makes it easier for the folks coming behind you as well. And I think about that when I'm negotiating with our corporate clients too. It's like there is a line where it is a win for both parties, but also if I take a lower offer, it's not fair to my other colleagues or, other speakers or whatever. So there is like that price integrity piece as well.
Yeah, and I feel like when you take compensation off the table as a barrier to success, everyone wins, right?
Totally.
Let's not make this the reason why we're not going to succeed together. So I'm going to keep going on this line, and then I have another branch on this Choose Your Own Adventure. So 7 days pass. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the best outcome would be great, like we've worked through it.
Yep.
But what if it's still a no?
Yeah. So then you need to make a decision. Like, is this a line in the sand? Am I going to start looking for something else, or am I going to say respectfully, thank you, can I go with your blessing? I'm going to go elsewhere. So you need to make a decision. And sometimes that's a very difficult decision because you love the culture, you love your boss, you love the office, you can walk there, your favorite matcha place is next door. Like, it's a really hard decision. But what happens is people can often, if you're not being compensated fairly, people can get resentful. And when you feel resentful at work, you can actually kind of bring down a whole team, honestly. But that's a decision for every individual listening and watching to kind of make, depending on their scenario. But I think you want to be honest with yourself. And maybe you stay there, but on the side, you start percolating something else. Maybe you stay there, but commit to reaching out to one recruiter on LinkedIn once a week. Maybe you stay, but commit to going to a networking event once a month. Maybe you say to your boss, look, I am disappointed. I will stay. I believe in you and I believe in what we're doing. And I will ask, can we move to quarterly reviews instead of annually moving forward? So that as and when the opportunity arises to increase that, I would really appreciate you keeping me front of mind for that.
I love that because, first of all, the win is you asking.
Exactly.
I mean, I would love for everyone to get the outcome they want.
Yeah.
But I also feel like you open the door in your relationship with your boss to know that compensation's on the table for continuous discussion.
Totally. And this is like, so there's the preparation piece, there's the preparation piece, you're playing detective, and there's the long game. So you can bang your fists and walk out the door and maybe burn that relationship, or you can say, listen, I'm going to work with you for the next quarter, and I'm going to prove to you that it's a no-brainer for you to give me what I want by the revenue that I bring in or by the change in the website that I make, whatever it is. So you've also got to play a long game with people. The best opportunity you have to negotiate is going into an organization. Once you're in, it's a lot harder. It's typically a percentage based, but you also have to work with this person. And I always say to people, it's almost like a marriage. Like, you kind of want to enter into this relationship. You want to get as much as you can, of course. And you want to keep the respect, the professional respect as well. And finding that line is difficult.
I like that it's an and, because I do like when people just go talk to a recruiter, because we have 2 examples of folks that we know where one person said, I didn't want to take that recruiting call. I did, and they offered me so much more. And in that quarterly meeting, they brought the offer back. And the boss said, well, let me see if I can match it. They didn't get anywhere close. And she said, okay. And they said to her, this is the highest number we've ever offered anyone on the biz dev team.
Yeah.
She goes, well, if that's the highest number, I do have to leave.
Yeah.
Right. So that balance of keep looking,
Yeah.
not that you want to take it.
Yeah.
And she cried the day she left that company, right? She was just in tears. She's so happy where she is now. But at the same time, you're like, okay, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But I do have to. I do have to take care of myself and
and
my
I think,
family.
and bosses also understand that. You know, I mentioned earlier, I had a staff member who's just moved countries, and for health insurance and whatever reasons in the part of Europe where she's going, she had to get a locally anchored job. And it was an open conversation. Of course, we're disappointed. Of course, it's a sad thing, but also life happens.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely that folks will stay with you for 50 years.
Right.
Right. And so bosses understand that. The more notice you can give them, that's helpful. The more you can, set up a Bible for when the next person takes over, that's helpful. There's other things that you can think about as well. But keeping the conversation open, I think, and I believe in transparency. That's
What about the
jam.
other branch of the tree, though, which is you go in with this well-formulated, well-researched case, and the boss disagrees. Like, actually, your version of events is not my version of events.
Yes.
Because that does happen, too.
It does happen, yeah.
And, in fact, there will be no promotion, there will be no raise this year, other than the cost of living increase everybody gets.
Yeah, yeah. So then that's a conversation, and that's a bit of a come to Jesus moment for the individual to go, well, is this BS? Or is there actually, I'm not happy about it, but there's a kernel of truth in that.
Okay.
And so what I always say to people is when you are sidelined or just kind of like sideswiped like that, it's often not a productive conversation to continue. So what you can say is you can be like, wow, this is a lot to process. I'm so grateful that you were so honest with me. Do you mind if I sit with this? And how about we talk again on Friday?
Okay.
Like, feel free to take the power back, especially if you feel like it's unfair and if you feel like it's like a trauma dump or just like someone being aggressive. Feel free to say, like, I got to be honest, I'm a little shocked. This is not my recollection of events. This is not what I have been tracking in the app or whatever. This is not the feedback that I've received. I respect you that this is your version. So I just want to take a beat.
Yeah.
And let's come back and talk later in the week.
I like that. I think people in the moment are paralyzed and feel like you have to respond or agree or just...
Yes.
And I like the idea of like, can I soak all this in?
Yes.
And come back to you?
You don't have to agree or disagree. But yeah, it's just because, you might not want to cry. You might not want to say something you regret. You might not want to tell them what you really think, so.
Or it's say, what would it take for me to get that raise or promotion if that's the case?
You want to kind of then think about it like, so am I on a performance plan?
Yeah.
Like, what metrics can we put in place? Because if I'd known 6 weeks ago, I would have behaved differently. Like, how can we then go back to them and say, here's a constructive way forward, which they may take or leave. But I think as well, in any negotiation, and even in a business sense, you might be negotiating on behalf of the company. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine is the chief negotiator for a very, 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 very high profile famous couple who shall remain nameless. But he negotiates their multi-$100 million deals, etc. right? And he's like a hardcore hectic lawyer, like the top fancy law firm whose name escapes me, whatever, and now he negotiates for them. And he was telling me sometimes it gets so heated in these boardrooms that they'll be like at this long boardroom table, like 20 execs, and he'll just stand up and he'll be like, I need to use the little boys' room. Let's take a beat. And he'll just say he has to go to the toilet because he's like, I just have to diffuse it. He's like, I can't even handle it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, sometimes I'll be negotiating the final terms on his cell phone and he'll just pretend. He's like, the New Jersey tunnel, he'll just pretend he's going through a tunnel and that the call cuts out and he'll hang up and he'll just take 5 minutes and he'll be like, oh, the cell service, terrible. Just to take the pressure down. And when he said that to me, it was so helpful because I was like, wow, these people that are paid millions of dollars to negotiate like multi-million-dollar deals.
Pretend to go to the bathroom.
They do whatever it takes to buy themselves mental health time, to decompress and to just chill and to get back into a place of power.
Yeah.
So I guess why I'm sharing this is because I want folks who are listening and watching to kind of remember that, like, if you feel like the power is being taken away from you and you're out at sea and you're drowning, it doesn't have to stay that way. You can come back to land with your language, with your pre-prepared ideas, with your moment to say, you know what, I'm going to need a minute and I'll come straight back. Like you get to have the autonomy to do that if you need to.
And what I think is interesting about what you've just said, though, is like, if I come back later, you've also had time to formulate a plan. Because we have a woman in my book who got the money raise, but didn't get the title change.
Yeah.
And I said to her, 2-step process.
Yes.
I said,
that's
you
such a
got
good
the
point,
money.
Lisa.
You got 3 kids now. She had twins late in life.
We love that.
And I said, 6 months later, you'll go to your boss and you'll say, I have all of the accountability without any respect from anyone because you didn't give me the title change. You and I both know I'm making more money, but you got to give me the MD title. And he's like, he called HR then. He's like, done. Right? If that's what's going to take. But I said, you got to separate those 2 things out sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you might not be able to tackle them in all one negotiation.
And there also can be an ego play in this too, because to the point that we made earlier about like a negotiation is a conversation with the goal of an agreement. Sometimes certain bosses need to feel like they've had a win. And Lisa asked for more money and a title. I'm not going to give her the title. Like some bosses are a bit vindictive. Like, and you've got to kind of know the personality you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, some bosses are okay if you talk to HR first. Some bosses, if you talk to HR, forget it. They will blacklist you for whatever reason, you know? So you got to kind of like think about like, what is the personality type of the decision maker that I'm dealing with? And how do I get the best outcome for me? How do I play them in the way they need to be played?
No, and I love that because I think this particular boss loves being a white knight. And so this idea of like, oh, you have a bigger family now. Let's get you more money. Let's get you paid. You totally deserve it. You brought in enough business this year. And then 6 months later, hey, just in meetings, because I'm still vice president, not managing director, I can't push through your agenda. And it would just mean the world to me if we could make this one change so you can be not copied on emails anymore. And he goes, you're right, I'm calling HR now. And he literally called HR while she was sitting in the room. Yeah. Like, can you just change this person's title immediately?
And to your point, you have to pick your battles too. You know, and there might be a power play going on at the executive level that you may or may not be privy to. So that's why the detective work piece is very important. At an office politics level as well, it's not just about the revenue and the dollars and cents, like understanding what is the chessboard that's going on, you know, that you're being played as part of.
What if you're in the gig economy? Right. Yeah. So a lot of the conversation we've had around women and people just in general in more corporate settings or more structured settings. What if I'm in a gig economy situation and my freelance rate is not right or the company says they can't pay me more? Like, how do you think about that?
It's really tough. As someone who, you know, when I used to live in London, I worked for the BBC World. I was a freelancer in London for a really long time. And you have a rate that you want to charge, but sometimes the rate is the rate is the rate. And when it's the BBC World, you take the rate.
Okay.
And it's a low rate, but I took the rate because for me anyway, I was like, I'm not turning down the chance to work for the BBC World. So I took the rate. But when I moonlit for Australian networks who needed someone in London and couldn't afford to fly people over, you better believe I charged my full rate. So that's what I had the capacity to do when I was a freelance journalist in Europe. But it can be very, very difficult. And again, it comes down to like making a decision for you and your family. What are your needs? What are the financial incomings that you need to meet the outgoings? And if the rate is the rate is the rate and it's not going to change, either you side hustle to supplement that, or you think about how can you take on a more senior role, or do you have to consider alternatives? Starting your own thing, going to a corporate, like whatever the case may be. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the gig economy for me, I think it's always, you're negotiating all the time.
Yeah. Which is great though, from a practice perspective, because you get to flex that muscle, flex that muscle.
For anyone who's freelancing,
everyone's like, oh,
Maggie,
it's not that fun.
You know, I think this is, when I think about it, I think there's kind of 2 things you have to have in place.
Right.
You have to have a community.
Yeah.
Because if you have a community, you're always asking, what is everyone charging?
Yes, and they will be candid with you, right?
I really like that. Like, I'm $50 an hour, I'm $75 an hour, I'm $200 an hour. Like, I know a lot of coaching, executive coaches, they're always talking about, I'm now $1,000 an hour, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that when you're part of a community, plugging into it. So the person who I collaborate on my book with, she has a whole group of collaborators and ghostwriters that are often sharing contract information that they can share, right?
Yes.
And then the second thing is, I think, to your point, having a plan around when you do have to turn down a freelance job. Because I do think there is a little bit, even as painful as it is, there is a signal to say my rate is here. And I feel like that's really painful, but you might need to do that to say, this is what I charge now. I know 10 years ago when you asked me to do this, this is where I was, but I've really stepped up my game and done some high profile projects and whatnot, and now I'm here.
Which I think that also sends a signal for the next freelancer. because companies want great talent. And if they can't afford great talent, they need to, there's like a signal that actually has to come before they realize that that's what's happening, right? And it can be difficult to deliver that news, but there's a way, like language is so important. Instead of saying, screw you, I'm not working for that, you can say, I would love to do this. Right now, it's not going to work within the rates that I'm charging. If you find more budget, please let's continue the conversation.
Well, and that's what we found with photographers, models, things like that, is everything's gone up 30%. And I have to be okay with that because I want to make sure people are paid what they're worth. And that's been a change for me to realize rates have changed.
And I think the other thing to think about is like, and we have thinking about non-monetary benefits that you can negotiate as an individual or, you know, help negotiate on behalf of a company. If you go to PepTalkHer.com/pay me more, there's like a whole list of different things. But one of the things, if you think about it from a photographer or a model's perspective, if the model knows that you're going to book them for 2 days every month at the start of the year, maybe they're happy to give you a rate for 24 days instead of it's a one-off day. You know, the same with the photographer. If they know every Monday, the first month of every Monday or whatever, the first Monday of every month, I'm going to be working for Gravitas, maybe they have more flexibility.
No, and we've been really lucky with that. We work consistently with a group of people, but also as they're building their business, they get to use us in their portfolio.
Of course, it goes both ways. Yeah.
So as you think about going forward, what most would you want to change about how women approach negotiation?
I think, you know, something that I should have said from the outset is that a lot of the issues that we're all of the issues that we're dealing with are not our fault. Like these are systemic challenges that exist in the world. On the one hand, some folks say we should burn it down. I'm not quite sure how to do that. And so where I've landed is to work within the system as flawed as it is, right? And so this is a multi-centuries challenge that we are coming up against. So just to say people are like, this is exhausting, this is a lot, it's not your fault, it sucks. But for now, it is what it is until we can figure out another solution. So what I really crave is for everyone to get the best possible results that they can within the confines of the challenges that the world that we live in, right? I just wish, for me, money is power. Money is choice, and money gives you possibility. We had a woman in our community who went through one of our programs. She wanted to get to $200,000 a year in a salary. That's all she wanted. And I was like, girl, we got you. 3 months, you'll be fine, no worries. Sure enough, 3 months, she hits the number. And she sent a message to the Slack channel, Lisa, like 3 weeks later. And she was like, yo, like, I have just left a domestic violence relationship because I now have the money to be able to afford my own place. I have the money she was living in a remote part of the country. So there were I had no idea this was going on behind the scenes. To me, it was just like money, yay, choice, possibility. But for her, it was like, this is a life and death situation for her. And so for me, it's the possibility that comes of having money, the possibility of a better life, the possibility of love without violence, the possibility of educating your children, the possibility of paying for healthcare bills for someone in the family who's sick, whatever that may be, the possibility of being really effing rich, you know, and then being an amazing philanthropist to do really great things in the world. Like that's what really excites me about it. I'm not motivated by fancy cars and things like that. Like I just think the possibility that happens when women are paid, when everyone is paid what they are worth, and when people realize that the system is sometimes out to get us, and so how can we work within that to maximize the possibility for ourselves, but then also being allies for other folks as well.
I love that. And I love the build on this, right? Which is, let's destigmatize conversations around money.
Yeah, totally.
And let's focus on the potential of everyone getting what they're worth. I love that because it takes it away from, I don't want to have this difficult conversation about a promotion or a raise.
Right. Well, what if you were to share with an intern, like what you think they should be charging when they finish their summer internship with you? What if we were to share with our college WhatsApp groups our bonus for this year? Like what if all of us listening were to take a quote unquote radical step and text someone in a circle about your salary? Like that's kind of, it's pretty radical still, even in 2025, which is kind of crazy, but it is, you know?
You know, and since I would say about 5 years ago, I think the pandemic reset a lot of things in my life.
True.
I've had more open conversations with my friend group like you about money.
Yeah.
And you and I will call each other oftentimes and be like, hey, I got offered
and
this.
And talk about rates. Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Is it okay? I mean, we took a discounted rate.
Yeah.
And I remember us having an open conversation about, we got paid a third of what we usually get paid.
Yep.
And we said, but we get to go to Nashville together and hang out and have dinner and swap ideas and see each other on stage and be each other's colleagues in a way. And we also did as a favor to our best guy, Tom. But also, I think I got a lot out of those 2 days together.
Totally, and this is where it's the non-monetary benefits. It's not always about money. Sometimes it is, but we were in a privileged position where we were like, the money's fine. It's not what we would normally charge, but this is a great experience. We're going to meet 200 new people. Who knows how many of them will come to the Gravitas website? Who knows how many of them will join the PepTalkHer Mastermind? Who knows how many of them will work with either of us in a coaching capacity? So we decided to kind of like put it out there and see what would happen. So, you get to choose. The money is one piece of the pie, but there's other non-monetary benefits as well that you can kind of strategize and think about how can you maximize.
I love that you added all those other things. For me, it was like a girl vacation with Meggie.
Well, that was
For me,
too.
it was like, should we just go do this because we got nothing else going on that week?
We did go to that delicious restaurant, Husk. For anyone listening, Husk in Nashville.
And we had lunch the next day, and we gave each other feedback on our
talks. You helped me with my keynote speech.
We just had a really fun time.
Yeah, we did. We sent great content to our agent, leading authorities who we
love them.
Yeah, we do.
In closing, what does Gravitas mean to you?
You know what's so interesting? Because since you and I met, I've thought a lot about this word. And I think when I was growing up earlier in my career, when I was a journalist in Australia and in Europe, I thought gravitas meant a fancy suit and putting your shoulders back. I just kind of thought it was like a very masculine almost definition of what it means. To me now, like when I think about gravitas, I think about you because of the amazing book and because of the company. But to me now, like gravitas means like authenticity. It means like a soft power in an authentic lens. That's the way that I frame it. The confidence piece is imbued in that because I kind of see them as one and the same. But to me, it's more of less of an aggressive power, which is what I previously would have thought, and more of an influence through relationships. That's how you've really shifted my perspective on this word gravitas.
Well, I like to think that we have reframed it.
Yeah, I think so.
And we've made it
truly,
more applicable for women too. Because I would say 25 years ago when I heard the word for the first time, I thought it was very masculine too. It was very performative. It was very statesman-like. There was this
voice kind of thing.
And through the last 25 years and like doing all the research, and I credit Kelly Shu at Yale for saying, men are rewarded for extroversion and charisma in terms of promotion potential, and women are penalized, right?
Yeah.
So this is not the way we're going to win the game.
Yeah.
So I love that I've been part of your journey to reclaim this word so that we can have it for ourselves now too.
Totally. Yeah, you really have. And the book is like such a great read. I hope that folks listening have the chance to.
You did bring our youngest reader to my book signing.
Poor Lisa. I came to her book signing with like a very cranky, tired, after a day at the beach, 18-month-old, I think he was at the time, maybe a 1-year-old, running around at your book signing.
I loved it. And he has like a feminist onesie.
Yeah.
So, Hugo's welcome at all the events. I cannot wait for my dog to lick his face.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Meggie, for coming on In Confidence.
Thanks for hosting these conversations.
I'm happy we're friends.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, lovely.
I hope you love this time with my dear friend Meggie. I love some of her tips. I love the idea of wish, want, walk. I'm going to use that from now on, and to prepare for the best case and worst case scenarios. Also, never accept no or maybe as the final answer. We hope this episode gave you some tools and the courage to ask for what you deserve. Remember, every one of us has the opportunity to continually have that conversation about getting what we're worth. If you haven't yet, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to part 1 of this series, where I break down how to get into the right mindset before your next negotiation. And if you're ready to track your wins, download PepTalkHer's app for support every step of the way. You've got this, and we've got your back. If you love this episode, I hope you'll share it with someone who needed to hear this today. Subscribe so you never miss a moment of inspiration. And in the words of my 9-year-old self, and I feel like this series, these words matter even more. I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.